Hello, everyone. We're going to use 2 weeks to study this module on maps. First, let's watch this short video about mapping in data visualization.
Good morning, John. Today I'm going to introduce you to some maps, 42 maps that help me understand the world and my place in it. Maps are an amazing kind of art. They tend to represent reality, but they don't have to. They can put lots of information into perspective. They can be extremely information dense, and I love information density, which is why I cut all the breaths out of my videos. Historical maps don't just tell you about the world. They tell you about the world that they were created during, which is really amazing. And not just what the world looked like back then, but also how little we knew about the world back then. When I'm reading Game of Thrones, I'm always super frustrated because they haven't mapped the whole world yet. And I'm like, if you go west from Westeros, what's over there? It's just amazing to realize that the majority of people who lived in the world so far didn't know what the whole world looked like. It seems terrifying to me. But once we had the global maps, we started using them for more than just representing the world, so you could navigate it or divide it up into things that were owned by different people and countries. It became an interesting and useful way to display and understand data about the world. Population probably being the most obvious example. Here's the world split up into 7 different regions, each with about 1 billion people. And yes, that is North and South America and Australia just making up one of them. Australia is mostly empty. Only 2% of people live in the highlighted area. Inside this circle, there are more people living than outside of that circle. Actually, it's this circle because things get distorted when you take a globe and unwrap it into a flat rectangular map, which is why this weird curvy line is actually the longest straight line you can sail without running into land. Here it is actually projected onto a globe. See? Straight line. The sailing route is only possible, of course, because the Earth is mostly water, which becomes more evident when you look at the places that you could actually make an Earth sandwich, by which I mean that there is actually land on both sides of the planet in those places. Maps can also show preferences, of course, for alcoholic drinks, for sides of the road, for how to pronounce caramel or caramel, or what to call cola, soda pop, cokes, or systems of measurement. And yes, the US is lagging a little bit behind the metric system there. Also in maternity leave, also in executing juveniles. A little embarrassing. World Mapper is an amazing website and software tool that distorts the world based on data. Because really, is the amount of land a country has the most important thing about that country? Of course it's not. Here, the world is morphing from a map that shows the amount of land that each country has to the amount of people that each country has. While in this World Mapper map, we see the number of internet users swelling from 2000 to 2007. These moving maps that stretch to the dimension of time are some of my favorites. For example, this one that shows internet usage over a 24-hour period, and this one that shows global flights over a 24-hour period. Whoa. Now, as much as maps can help us understand the world, they can also distort our perceptions of the world. For example, the Mercator map projection, which we often use, stretches out the world at the poles. In this map, Africa looks like it's about the size of Greenland, but in fact, Africa is big, very big. The continent of Africa is bigger than the United States, France, Germany, Spain, the UK, all of Eastern Europe, China, and India. But also, north being up is completely arbitrary. And it's kind of convenient, it turns out, because most people actually do live in the northern hemisphere. In Western world, we started out with north being up with Ptolemy, but then we switched so that east was up, so that when you said to orient your map, you were pointing toward the Orient. We switched back to north being on top because we got obsessed with the Greeks during the Renaissance. You're wondering. We live in a big, complicated world, sometimes wonderful, sometimes terrible, always impossible to understand completely. The people who use these data and these tools to make these constructions of reality so that we can better understand our world are some of the heroes of the modern age. Hats off to them and to our ever-changing, wonderful world. John, I'll see you on Tuesday.
So we can see this guy is pretty enthusiastic about maps. But actually, maps is a very, very important tool in data visualization. So we also said if the picture is worth 1,000 words, then the map is worth 1,000 cells. Because location can relate disparate data, and it's easy for us to detect those areas with problems by state, county, zip, block, etc., even down to individual address. So let's start with this map by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. What they are attempting to show is unemployment rate by state in December 2008, which was during the financial crisis. So what is the issue with the color here? So we know the problem is they're using different color hues to represent higher unemployment. They're using yellow, orange, red, purple, and black. The audience can certainly be confused, trying to think of purple as worse than red and dark red. So let's pull up the use of color in data visualization again. So which method do you think they should have used here? Yes, a sequential color scheme going from light to dark would have been better and much easier to read. So they didn't even need to use color. Actually, they could have just used a gray scale. So to complicate the problem even further, here are the maps for December 2008 and October 2011. So what do you think are the problems here? So here's a scale side by side. So this makes the comparison of the two time periods impossible. In fact, so look at the maps and thinking about think of the darker colors are worse. The maps seem to indicate that by 2011, things were much better, since most of the country is lighter. But in 2008, it was purple at 7%, but in 2011, it takes 12% to reach purple. 5% is a low value color in yellow, but was red in 2008. This tool offers a drop-down menu to choose the state, but when the entire nation is selected, it's simple colors everything at the average, which is not at all useful. Now we just have a green image of the entire US. Here's a map done by called Realty Track. It's really well done. It shows the foreclosures by county in the United States during that same time period of 2008. It's a colorblind friendly palette of blue and red, and it's easy to see which counties in the US were hit the hardest during this time. So California, Nevada, Florida, and Detroit were all hit very hard. Compare the county map from Realty Track on the previous slide with this one, which shows the GDP recovered by county using dots on the map. So as we can see, dots can be useful, but in this case, plotting 3,000 dots that are fairly large and on top of each other really obscures the view of the counties. A shaded map, also called a color map or chloroplast map, would have been much better in this case, as well as avoiding red and green together as we discussed before. So let's see one example. So it's animated example, how to simplify the use of colors on the map. Remove borders. Maps even remove this rainbow color. Ease up on emphasis. Further simplify the use of color. So here's another example of data by county, this time showing what term people use as the generic name for soft drinks. So this shows a categorical sequential color scheme. It's light to dark for prevalence of each term, but different color hues for the different names. If you grew up on the east or west coast, then you probably use the term soda. In the north and the part of the Midwest, people use the term pop. The South is the most interesting. Because when you ask the waiter or waitress for a Coke, they may ask you, what kind of Coke? To which you might reply, Sprite. Here's a map visualizing paths of people moving around in the United States, and the reason why they move. So this is an example where dots on the map along with paths works very well. So this map of the bank branches in the United States, it's based on lots of dots. There's actually no map layer in this visualization, not even the country border. But we can still see the outline of the US map clearly. This map is simply made up of 92,000 points on the map, plotting actual location of each branch. It's interesting to see where these bank branches are located, but it's not very useful beyond that. In fact, if there were no title on this, we could have easily said this was like a Verizon coverage map. It's the same map that we would see if we plotted the post offices or McDonald's location. That's because these places are going to be centered around the areas of the highest population. This is basically a proxy for a population map. So let's dive into the data and see what happens when we filter or add color. So here is the distribution of the top 4 banks. Wells Fargo seems to have nationwide coverage. But as soon as we drop to number 2, we can start to see some difference. US Bank does not have any branches on the east coast of the southern coast. When we drop to number 5 to 10, we can really see the differences in the data. We're still in the top 10 banks in the US, and they are all very different. Regions Bank is very heavy in the south, while TD Bank is on the east coast. Fifth Third is heavy in the Midwest. Their headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio. Adding some color and filtering a few banks together, we can see some interesting patterns. For example, if US Bank were looking to expand their bank branch coverage in the US, TD Bank and the SunTrust would have been very complementary banks to help them filling the East Coast and the South. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the geocoding. So geocoding is a useful mechanism to draw the map and by highlighting the longitude and the latitude. So it's a process of taking an address and converting it into a latitude and a longitude. So latitude here, latitude lines are horizontal lines across the Earth. Longitude lines are vertical lines. Above the equator in the northern hemisphere, the latitude lines are notated as north or positive numbers. Below the equator, they are actually negative numbers. Latitude and longitude are typically expressed in one of two ways. For example, the latitude shown here is north 38 degree 41 minutes and 7.8351 seconds. So most business intelligence tools and the mapping software geocode using degrees decimal. The math conversion between the two is very simple, just divide the minutes and the second by 60. There are many different ways to do geocoding based on specific addresses. There are packages in R and Python, but there are also a number of tools available online. If processing really large files of address, then your company would likely be using a commercial grade solution. Many companies automatically geocode all of their address in their system. So here are a list of websites that can actually offer you some free geocoding services. So like the second one, it gives you 25,000 addresses free per day. So here is the website, how it looks like for the second, the geocode.io. It has a very nice interface. It gives you 2,500 records per day for free. And you can upload files to their website and then download the results instantly. You may want to find the need to calculate the distance sometimes between 2 points on the map. So this requires a bit of math because the world is not flat. This formula can be used in any program that offers these functions. This will work well in programs like Excel or Tableau. So you simply input the latitude, longitude of the 2 points, and the distance as the crow flies will be calculated in kilometers, miles, or even natural miles. So basic geocoding for Tableau can be done also very easily. Any data set that includes country, state, city, or longitude, latitude can be used as spatial data in Tableau. If the dimension is not identified by Tableau as geographic data, it can be changed to reflect spatial data. To get a generated longitude and latitude, drag the dimension you want to see either into the sheet or just under detail in the marks card. As you can see here, each country has a dot representing the different countries. This can be changed to states and cities. From here, a map can be created based on the data provided to provide meaningful analysis. Mapbox is another tool that can be integrated for additional designs in Tableau. It's a platform used by developers to integrate location into any mobile or online application. Mapbox can be paired with Tableau easily to help increase the design and to be adopted in Tableau for your maps. First, you need to create a free Mapbox account, and then you can get the API access token to be used in your Tableau design. So here is how you actually can use the map service Mapbox. So choose Mapbox. Once you are in map service, you can click and choose Mapbox. After you are into the Mapbox, in Tableau, log into your Mapbox account online to access the token, and then copy it onto your clipboard. So you can then choose classic or other different types of styles from Mapbox and use them in your Tableau design. Dual access is another use for technique in Tableau. So this map in the top right here corner is the dual access map. It contains polygons map out of the different neighborhoods and it contains the location of potholes that were fixed in the city of Washington, D.C. So to achieve this, you will first drag the geometry measure to the detail to create the map as shown in the first section. Then you can drag the second latitude to the row section to make 2 maps. From there on the mark card, you can actually see 2 latitudes. The one highlighted now is the top one, and it's the polygons for the neighborhood. The second one is the map below, and it shows the points in the analysis. To complete them, you just highlight the second latitude and click dual access. Click the dual access. And then you are going to integrate these 2 maps into a single map. So I will give you a demo next week to show how you can easily create these dual maps in dual axis map in Tableau. Okay, so that's all I want to discuss for the slides. And next week I'll show you several actually examples of mapping in data visualization with Tableau. Please let me know if you have any questions.